All right, everyone, we're going to get started in just a moment. Thanks again for coming to our workshop today on brand planning in a time of uncertainty. I'm very glad that you all could be here and look forward to spending the next hour with you.
Thanks, Reggie. I think we'll just go ahead and get rolling. If people start logging on, they'll be able to join us as well. I'm Barry Zimbrick, and I'd like to welcome you all on behalf of the Tysons Chamber to today's webinar. We're very excited to have the infamous Reggie Holmes with us today to talk about his program and some ideas on brand planning in a time of uncertainty, which continues to be becoming uncertain and changing on a daily basis. So this is very timely. Reggie is the principal of Enthused Creative and a brand consulting and design expert. And we're thrilled also to acknowledge he's the chair of the Tysons Chamber Marketing Committee, which we appreciate very much. A couple of quick announcements, and I'm going to turn it over to Reggie. I did want to thank our webinar sponsor, Faceta, who launched a talent initiative for the region a couple months ago for job resources and opportunities in the Northern Virginia area. So when we get started, I will put a link to their website in the chat area, and also on the Tysons Chamber website, you'll also find it there, which is www.tysonschamber.org. You can also find a copy of our calendar of events. We update that on a regular basis. So keep an eye out for upcoming webinars, events, and programs that will be activating soon. A couple of notes about the format. First, I'd just like to ask everyone to please keep their mics muted during the presentation. We're going to be using the chat feature, and that'll be available throughout Reggie's discussion for you to put questions into. And then at the conclusion, I think we've left about 10-15 minutes for some questions. So I'll facilitate that with Reggie at the conclusion. We are also recording today's webinar, so if you would like a copy of that, please feel free to email me at info@tysonschamber.org, and I'll be happy to get a copy of that to you when it's available. It usually takes a couple of days. So I think I've covered all of the details, and on that note, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Reggie so we can start learning about his thoughts on branding. Thanks, Reggie.
All right. Thank you, Barry, so much for that intro. I'm going to share my screen. Please just give me a thumbs up or an emoji, thumbs up, if you can see the slides, and then we will get started. All right. Good to go on the slideshow? You can see it. Great. All right, so this is brand planning in a time of uncertainty. And obviously, as Barry alluded to, it's a very uncertain time in many ways. And before I go further, I do want to have everyone just feel free to put your name, your business, your contact info, and maybe why you chose to sign up for this webinar today in the chat. We will be using the chat function, as Barry mentioned, and I would love to hear from all of you. These opportunities that are put on through the Tysons Regional Chamber of Commerce are great for learning and education, but they're also great for networking. So the hope and goal is that you can network a little bit while you're learning something about branding. So yes, we'd love to know why you chose to come today. You had many places and options and opportunities to spend the hour from 12 to 1 on this Tuesday. And I would love to know why you chose to come to this workshop. So this is a little bit about me. You heard a little intro. I am Reggie Holmes. I am Principal Creative Director of Enthused Creative, proud member of the Tysons Regional Chamber of Commerce for the past 2 years. I've had my business for 7 years, and we specialize in B2B brand strategy and design. So really working with businesses to build their brands from the inside out. And I'll talk a little bit more about my philosophy and approach and how we do that. My background is in graphic design, so I am all about trying to make things look good. but I've learned over the years that being understood is better than looking good. There are a lot of things that look good, but you don't really understand the value or the purpose. And branding is all about communicating that, as well as providing the aesthetics that make things look good and attractive. And as Barry said, I'm also the chair of the marketing committee for the Tysons Chamber. Very excited to be in that role and to be hands on in helping businesses in this area to grow. All right, so our purpose today is to teach small businesses and specifically business owners how to develop a solid, successful brand that will enable their businesses to survive and thrive through this period that we live in. And my goal and hope and desire for people is that their businesses will not just be able to sustain themselves, but actually to grow. And I would love to know in the chat um, where you are in terms of the last 8 months. You know, has your business declined a little bit? Has it plateaued or stayed the same? Has it grown? I know for me, initially there was a dip, as I feel like there probably was for most people. But I would say 3 to 4 months into the pandemic, people realize that they still need to build their brands, they still need to market their businesses. And so business kind of came back to the level where it was before and even increased a little bit. So I'm very fortunate in that regard. But many businesses have had a similar experience or a different experience. So we'd love to know how this period of uncertainty, which is extended now and will continue in some degree into the future, I just want to know how this has impacted you and your business. And the hope and goal today is that you get a lot out of this workshop. Our objectives, really two things that we want to accomplish: to show you why brand planning is now more important than ever for small businesses, because things are so uncertain and the climate is so different than what we have come to know and look forward to typically. um, the need for a plan around your brand is really important, even more so than at other times. And we also want to provide some strategies and tactics for helping you as a small business, as a small business owner, to build your own successful brand plan so you can achieve that growth that we talked about a little bit earlier. All right. So defining your brand. There are many different takes on what a brand is. Um, Most people have some idea that kind of hits around um, the nature of brand. I think for me, as I've come to work in branding for over 10 years now, it all comes down to relationship. Brand is relationship based and relationship driven. And I have a definition that I'll share, and it kind of tries to encompass everything that I think goes into the way that small businesses should think of their brands. And we are familiar with the big brands that line our shelves in our refrigerators and our pantries and our driveways and in our homes. But the way that those large companies can think about their brand is often a little bit different than the way a small business should think about their brand. So for me, brand is the sum of the relationships. And this includes your reputation as well as your perception in the market. It's the sum of the relationships of a business that is expressed through various channels and messages through which a business is known, understood, valued, and trusted. So it's again all about that relationship, all the things that go into that relationship, and that encompasses the internal, which means your staff, your own culture, the people that are part of your organization. That also includes the other stakeholders, the vendors and partners that you work with and leverage to execute the work in your business. And that also means, in some sense, your competition, because your brand is where you've chosen to position yourself in light of everyone else that's in your market. And obviously, uh, brand relates to the relationship between the business entity and its customers. And for the purpose of our conversation today, a lot of what we'll focus on is uh, building your brand, growing it through this uncertain time as it relates to your business brand relationship with your customers. And I'll pause here and just say we are, I'm encouraging you to put your questions and comments in the chat. And once I'm done with the presentation, I've allotted some time at the end to be able to go back to those questions and try to answer them. But I definitely look forward to your thoughts and your comments. So as I say some things that maybe stand out to you, or you have more questions about, feel free to put that in the chat, because we definitely want to come back to that at the end. And so the right understanding of brand is not too narrow, and also not too wide. And the key thing is that you're always thinking about relationship, and the right definition will allow you to be able to create the right type of relationship with your customer, and be able to be responsive to the times that we live in. And why is that important? This sort of represents the earth moving under our feet. I mean, that's kind of how it feels like over the last 8 months. We were on a very steady, solid, stable ground. Things were moving along pretty smoothly. And then it seems like mid-March, the earth just started moving. And then we had COVID-19, which we obviously are um, still dealing with, a global pandemic, the likes of which I've never seen or experienced in my lifetime. And probably most people on this would be able to say the same thing. With that was, economic downturn and recession. Alongside that, racial, social justice movement really happening in the United States, and really throughout the world, but particularly here in the U.S. And then, most recently, the election season that we've all gone through, and the fallout from that, which is still happening. So all of these things are happening simultaneously. I read an article that talked about how we had a very major event that happened in 2001 with 9/11, which really kind of changed the landscape for businesses, and for the country in terms of the way we thought about what was normal. And then 2008, 2009, we had another recession, the whole housing crisis, economic downturn that happened then. And in terms of this global public health crisis and everything going on in society, imagine having those things happening within a few month period. That's sort of what we had in 2020. And so, at any rate, that brought about tremendous changes for businesses and for their customers. And it's really important that we think about and understand that there have been changes that have happened, changes within your business and changes with your customers. And as we go through the things that we talk about today as it relates to relationship and your brand, and being able to have something that gives you clarity and certainty as we move through this uncertain period, it's important to keep that in mind. Your business today on November 17th is not what your business was on March 17th, or February 17th. We're within the same year, but a lot has changed. And so, as you think about changes that you either have made or still need to make in your business, it's paramount that you consider how the world, how the landscape has changed all around you. So, those are some of the reasons why brand planning is really important. And I wanted to share this website that I discovered over the summer. So, as all these major social and racial and political and public health uh, sweeping changes were happening, people started noticing. They started paying attention to not only what was happening in society, but they started paying attention to how companies, to how brands were responding, because it's these things affected everybody, and people started to take note of that. And so this website was created a few months ago. It's called didtheyhelp.com. And the goal, the purpose of this website is to really show, at least from one person's perspective, how their interpretation of how businesses and brands responded to, initially it was COVID-19, because if you noticed, a few things happened when the pandemic took off. Everybody sort of responded with a few different types of messages. Hey, we're in this together. Here's how we're changing our business model, our method of delivery to meet your needs. um, we care for you, safety first, wear your mask, things like that. um, and so there was a lot of messaging that went out that was very similar, but not everybody responded the same way. And so the people behind this website wanted to call attention to people that they felt responded really well to the situation. And then, as the Black Lives Matter and racial and social justice and LGBTQ and all these other things were happening simultaneously, they said, "Hey, why don't we show how people responded to that as well?" And if you go to the website, we won't look at it today, but it actually has essentially a scorecard, from, again, someone's perspective, of how these different brands responded. And so what that says to me is that we're no longer in a world where people just think, okay, brands do what they want to do, and there's no one paying attention, no one trying to hold businesses and brands accountable for how they respond to the changes around them. And so, as a person who has a business, as a person who's in charge of a brand, albeit not a global or national brand, but a small business brand, even on the level that I'm on, or any of us on this, in this meeting, it's important to know that people are looking, they're paying attention, and they want to see values that align with their own, and they want to see values lived out in the business and in practice that are espoused in the mission, in the vision, in the value statement. They want to know that you're doing what you say you do, that you're all about. And so that's really important. And this idea, um, of people watching and being um, focused on not only what you say, but what you do, that and how that aligns with what you say. That's really important, and that's not going to go away. Brands are. It's no longer just a one-sided conversation. Like, we're the brand. This is who we are. This is what we're all about. Well, now there are people that are watching. There are people that are noting. If you say that you're all about great culture and taking care of your people, and yet you are slow to meet their needs during this crisis. Well, people took note of that, and that's going to be something that I think we can count on continuing, even as uncertainty about where we go from here is still there. People are paying attention. They're paying more attention now than they did before. So, just wanted to share that to show what's out there, and even if they didn't create, the average person may not know about this website, or really take the time to make a scorecard, but people are paying attention, even on a local level, to what you say and how that aligns with what you do. So about a year and a half ago, I wanted to create a way to be able to talk about branding from the inside out. And so I came out with this model. It's called V6, and essentially kind of takes you through the different phases of a brand. They're not necessarily stages in the sense that you have to have one and then add the others, but they're all sorts of the different components of how you express your brand, how people come to know about who you are, and what you do. So the first two are kind of linked. If we think of them being the most inside, um, vision and values, And then we sort of move to visceral, what you make them feel, how you say it. And then when a lot of people think of brands, they think of the marketing messaging and the visuals, the things that they see. And so those are on the most, they're on the most outside level though. And really the foundation of the brand are these two things, are the vision and values that sort of lie underneath. And so all the pretty visuals and brilliant copy hang on those things. They're built on those things. And so I want to share that because as we get into uh, three things that I think will help your business to be able to grow and to help you as a small business owner build that brand that you want, that will help you to be able to grow through this uncertain period. I've kind of done it with this V6 model in mind. And so thinking about the first two, vision and values, the first thing I think is really important is credibility. And that means building trust and connection with your clients in new as well as timeless ways. Um, People are prioritizing safety, security, and stability now more than ever before. People are prioritizing values and virtues that resonate with them more than ever before. And people want familiarity, they want comfort, they want dignity. Um, they want clarity and they want honesty. And people say authenticity. We try not to use that word just because it's overused, but that's a nice way to sort of tie all that together. People want um, something that they can trust in and believe in. And so as you think about uh, how you plan your brand and position your brand, as we go into this period where so many things are uncertain, just know that people want to trust you. If we think of um, that idea of relationship again, think about the relationships that you value, um, where you feel the most valued. There's trust there, and so people people don't just buy brands. People don't just shop for brands. People build relationships with brands, and so if you can build into your business things that establish trust and credibility, that will help you be in a strong position no matter which turn things go in society or in the market. And all the things that have happened that we talked about a little bit earlier, these have changed the way that people respond to brands. They've um, produced a degree and speed of change that people were not used to. And so the wise, business owner, the wise brand steward will consider how relationships have changed or still need to change in order to maintain that credibility. Again, if you position yourself as someone who really takes care of people or takes care of the community, well, people want to see how you were engaged in the community um, during this time where there was tremendous need from everybody. And going forward, as we are in a recovery mode, people are going to want to see you live out that value of caring about the community. And so I want to ask in the chat if you can just share for yourself, what is one key way in which your consumers' behavior has changed over the last 8 months? So you can take a moment to think about that. You can write your answers in the chat. I look forward to reading some of your responses. Um, Brands, to me, a brand does two things. It exists to differentiate you from those in your market, and it also exists to drive consumer behavior. And that behavior has changed. And the ways in which it's changed is not something that you can control. But how you choose to position your business in light of these changes, that is something that you can control. And the thing about uncertainty is that it makes us all feel like, well, there are things that I can't control. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to respond. But this webinar is created to really try to empower you to take the parts and the aspects of your brand, um, into your control, that you can, to take those things into your control. Again, I came up with this inside out approach, and I believe it works because it doesn't rely upon trends and fads and technology, things which can be disrupted. There can be some newer, sexier, sleeker way to deliver it, to display it, but a timeless, credible connection with your customers is going to always be a successful strategy. So, a couple ways that you can build this credibility. One is to deepen your roots within your community and within the cultural and the context that you exist in. And it's important that you show that you're a concerned and compassionate citizen. I say not just conscious, which means I'm aware of what's happening, but that I'm conscientious, which means I am diligent in considering how I can respond and how I can be there for my customers in their time of need. I've skipped ahead. Um, so yeah, not just conscious, but conscientious, taking pains to do what's right by your people, and by people, again, I don't just mean your staff. I mean your stakeholders, your partners, the vendors that you work with, um, and even other people in your space that at another time may have been competitors. Uh, now maybe they're not really competitors, and you're sort of forced into a situation where you have to collaborate more and share resources. Um, how have you responded to all that? And lastly, for this one, know and understand your brand promise. That means living out your values. So this is huge for within your business, the internal side of branding, and then obviously external as it relates to your customers and the relationship that they seek to have with your business. People want to work for and be associated with businesses that are making meaningful and tangible impact, and that are living out their values. So whatever it is that you say your business is all about, if you're a photographer, well, you do more than just take pictures. If you are a coach or consultant, you do more than just give advice. Um, People are looking for those businesses, the ones that have a leg up, that have a distinctive advantageous position, are those that are very diligent in living out their values. So in this time of instability, people are again looking for trust. If we think of branding again like human relationships, trust is a key component. It's hard to have a relationship with someone that you don't trust, and you may trust them once, but if they prove untrustworthy, you're not going to go back to them. And so similarly, in this time where there's a lot of different messages, sometimes there are messages depending on the source that directly contradict each other. So people are looking for that consistent, trustworthy, credible message, and business that has those values that resonate with them and that they demonstrate and live out. So think of it much like a human relationship where trust is that most important currency that has to flow through it. So uh, number one, credibility. Number two, flexibility. This means understanding yourself and your clients in better ways to meet their changing needs. Again, if we operate off of that premise that I've changed, my customers have changed. Step one would be understanding how your customers have changed, so you can meet their needs. And then step two is assessing how my business needs to change, whether it's uh, the way I deliver my product or service, the way that I think about serving my customer and the sales process. Do I need to streamline it or extend it? The way that I market, how I reach my customers, are they coming to me at a different place in the sales cycle because of everything that's happened? And do I need to go out and meet them a little further? or a little earlier in the journey, or change my tactics and meet them a little later in the journey. These are things that you have to do some research and gather some insights from your customers in order to know that. But you will be all the better for it, because you'll be able to tailor your brand, tailor your message and your marketing, to be able to meet them where they are. This is really important for consumers because where they are today is different than where they were a year ago, and all of the assumptions and um, things that you thought about deploying your product or service then, they may be different now, and it's not advantageous for you. And in 6 months, they may be very different again as we work toward vaccines that appear to be effective. And we think about how that's going to get distributed to 300 plus million people that live in the United States. There are many big questions that have big answers that we don't have the answer to. But we need to consider how we can create a flexible brand that meets people where they are on the journey. So a few things that will help with that. When you think about how your brand is like a person, it interacts and serves other humans. And so creating there's the idea of a personal brand, which is sort of how you as an individual engages with the market around you. But we need to take some of those personal branding concepts and apply them to business branding, because in the same way that some people might see your LinkedIn profile and decide that you're the right person for a particular job, or they want to hire you for a project or opportunity, people are looking at your brand and they're asking themselves the same questions. Your business, your corporate brand. Um, is this somebody that I consider trustworthy? Do they uh, profess values that resonate and align with me? Do they think about whatever my problem is in a way that presents a clear idea of the solutions that they can provide to help me? And so it can't be anymore just about I am I run X business and this is what we do. People are looking for a more curated, customized experience. And so, all the ways that you can create that within your business, we need to think about how we can do that. There's no one size fits all for your brand anymore, or for the solutions that you provide. You may do one thing, but you need to communicate it in a way where there's nuance to it. And if I'm your customer, I can see myself in the way that you talk about the problem. I can see my problem and I can envision how you create a viable solution for it. Your brand has a personality, much like a real person, and as much as um, you can, that should shine through in what you do, in the way that you communicate your brand to your audience. Again, a challenge that many small business owners have is that they kind of lean into their brand personality too much, without a focus or emphasis on your customers' needs and wants. But if you can balance a dynamic personality with making sure that your business, your customers' needs are paramount and foremost, then I think you have something special there, because not only can people get a sense of what you do, but also how you do it and how you can help them. And so it's very important that the emphasis though is not on me as the provider of the services or product, that it has to be on my customer. And in doing that in my own unique way, I can communicate my brand personality to this potential customer. But if they're not going to hire me just based on personality, they're going to hire me because they like my personality and they connect with it, but also because I demonstrate that I can provide a solution to their problem. So a great example, or that I think in terms of how we can sort of position ourselves in light of how things have changed and what people need. I think about a company like New York Life, um, and their tagline is "the company you keep." And I was doing some research for another presentation on their website, and I know that that's their tagline, and I wanted to see how they applied it specifically to the time that we find ourselves in. And sure enough, there's a whole article on their website about how they've been around for over 150 years, and they start off the article talking about how they've been through wars and different other pandemics and sicknesses that have spread and depressions and upheavals in society, and how they've essentially been there and done that, and they're still standing, still strong, and they're still viable. They're still a viable solution for people that need their services. And so I thought that was a great example of how, it wasn't just this is our tagline, but they really leaned into that in a way where, I could see myself as someone who, okay, I have some fears about the economy. This is when things were very volatile in the stock market. There's obviously, coronavirus happening. And to be able to read that gave me, even though I'm not a customer, it gave me reassurance about the company, the people leading it, and the fact that they understood, that these were things that people were thinking about. And am I, if I were in the market for their services, would I work with, the company that is just sort of new and hasn't really been through that, or someone like New York Life that has seen it and can speak to how they've provided viable solutions and grown through all these different other things that are similar to what's happening right now. So think about how you can appeal to your customers in that way. Relational versus just transactional. People don't want to just be sold something; they want to connect. That's one of the main things. If you walk away with anything from this workshop, is that connection is really important, and that requires that can't we can't be static in our positioning. We've got to be able to be flexible with our brand to meet customers where they're at, because they do want to connect. They want to do business. They want to do repeat business with the brands that they feel that emotional relational connection with. People are looking for brands that can walk in their shoes. So this has to do with empathy, with understanding the customer journey. Um, there are needs that are going on right now, but as we look toward, hey, possibly having a vaccine and what that will look like and what that will mean for society, for the marketplace, you know, you should be thinking about that now. Okay, well, how do I need to position my brand for this time now where we're having a hard time with it, but also as we move toward a viable solution, a vaccine for it, how will I be able to meet my customers' needs then as well? And I thought it's interesting. We live in a time of decreased contact, but there's an increase in connection. And this is really important. We need to use technology to respond quicker, to respond more adeptly to needs that come up. It needs to look, even if you're using artificial intelligence and chatbots and some of these other tools that are out there, it needs to be communicated in a way that's not only fast but also friendly, and like a human would do it, like a person. Because again, people are, they land on your website and the chatbot comes up. They type in a question. They have a real need. Um, Even when you think about people and how much we search for in Google or on Alexa and things like these tools, they make it easier to ask questions and to get answers. But it's because people have problems and they're looking for the businesses and brands that have well positioned, clearly communicated solutions to those problems. I think about how restaurants overnight became food pantries. places where I could get dry goods and grocery items. They weren't necessarily open for going in to eat a nice meal, which is how I always thought about restaurants. But it was done in order to survive. But for some businesses, that's continued to be a model, because that's where people's needs are, and they learn something from that experience. And if we, unfortunately, if we have to go back to that, they've figured out something that can at least sustain them through this period of uncertainty. But that's probably the most clear example. In the chat, if you can think of others, uh, other businesses, other models that have sort of had to change quickly or change overnight in order to be able to respond to um, changes in the market and just everything that's happened. Feel free to put that in the chat. Would love to hear your ideas on that. But this flexibility, this agility, and being able to respond to the customer is really important when we think about all the things that are uncertain that we can't control. um, that's one aspect of brand that you can control. And lastly is visibility. So we had credibility, flexibility, and visibility. This is being seen and recognized by your clients, as adding value and providing solutions. So kind of building on some of the things that we talked about before, but you want to be relevant to all, but be resonant to some. And that some is your target audience. So this means that you're not necessarily trying to speak to everyone, but you have to speak with an understanding of what's happening to everyone. But you really want to be the solutions provider for your customer. And it seems limiting, but there's freedom in the limitation, because this allows you to really hyper focus on the solutions for your customers' problems. And I think about social media, and there are many different types of social media out there. There are many platforms, and there's always this temptation that small business owners feel to need to be everywhere and do everything as it relates to social media marketing and pushing your brand messaging out that way. But if your customers are not there, then you don't need to be there. You need to be visible to those that are going to look for your solutions to their problems. Um, and it allows you the freedom to be able to showcase how those solutions have made impact. So things like case stories or case studies. Um, if you use metrics and statistics, not hitting people over the head with numbers, but showing in a tangible way the impact that your solutions have created. Another is emphasizing customer interest and experience, and de-emphasizing your own experience. And that sort of goes back to that idea of not talking about, if I talk about what worked for me, it's only because it's going to be relevant and meaningful to my customers. And so, you know, thinking about how you deliver your products or services. Do you need to, change where you market, or dollars and resources that you put in one place? Maybe it's not viable anymore, but you're tailoring things to go where your customers are and to demonstrate to them that you are available and ready to serve them and to meet their needs. Every business in today's market is a content producer. Uh, that's something that this period has driven home for me. That you don't have to do amazing 4K HD videos that you post everywhere. You just need to be visible to your clients. They do need to see that you are active, that you're available, that you're engaged in developing and delivering solutions to their problems. Um, People expect you to have some kind of content that communicates your value. We're bombarded with messaging. Even through this period, there's been no shortage of commercials and ads and content being produced. Why? Because there's a constant need to feed that, because we have short attention spans, and as people were transitioned to the house, instead of commuting to work and to offices, there's a whole new set of challenges and problems that needed solutions. And so for those that were perceptive and anticipated things well, it created new opportunities. Um, and as we continue to go through this extended period, there's still opportunities for those that are well positioned to take advantage of it. But as you come up with solutions, as you encounter problems and develop those solutions, you really need to communicate to people that you are a viable provider of those solutions. And the last thing I'll say about content is that you need to think about content as a system and not just singles. And that's been a challenge for me. Okay, I have one-off, blog post. I have one-off um, video that I might post or infographic. And think about how you can create a system around your content that uh, sort of helps if branding is about differentiation and driving customer behavior, how can you create a system of content that allows your customer to move through it and take the action that you want them to take? Because if people take the time to go to your website, to type in the chat bot, or to respond to your lead generation tool, it's because they're looking for some solutions. And so give them what they're looking for, but also help them be a part of your system, as opposed to, I drop one thing here, one thing there, and there's not really a whole strategy and process behind it. So again, position, not promotion. And I think that's really helpful. You don't need to be everywhere to be a part of every social media trend or fad or platform. Um, you just need to be where your audience is. That's boring in some sense to some people, but it's going to allow you, by doing less, you're doing more. It's going to allow you to be more relevant, be more timely, and more precise in letting people know about the solutions you provide. Not just what are we doing, but who are we being? And that idea of being something that your customer really needs. So credibility, flexibility, and visibility. And just one final thought. I love branding. This is what I do. But branding is not the be all and end all for your business. It's really important though. And we have the ability to create a plan around our brand, which puts us in a much better position than just kind of winging it. Because if it's difficult to do in a period where things are stable and what we would consider certain or normal, in this environment, it's very difficult to create, execute, and stay on top of your brand without the plan. You need sales, you need operations, you need marketing. Um, you need all those things, and they'll never not be important. Branding is a key part of the equation, but it's not the be all and end all. It can help you get there, but you still need these other components of a sound business to be able to ensure, um, as best you can, that you'll grow and thrive through this period. Um, so with that, I have a free download for a digital brand strategy guide that I put together over the summer as we were going through this period. I wanted to give small business owners some tools, some strategies and tactics to be able to put their own, high level brand in place. And so in a follow-up email that will come out about 24 hours from now, there will be a link to where you can download this brand strategy guide. And I'm excited about this new offering. It's a brand planning lunch and lab, and so it's an opportunity to really actually work in a small group on some of these areas that we talked about in a very precise and structured way, and kind of put your brand plan in place. If what I've talked about today sounds interesting and something that you like to delve into for yourself, we're offering this early bird rate of $65 for the first 5 folks who decide to take part. And so that email will come out tomorrow, and just be the first part of the first 5 to sign up. And you can take part in this brand planning luncheon lab. That's all I have. Hopefully, we have some time for questions, and we have some questions in the chat. But this is my contact information. It's been great to share these insights with you. I hope that something was helpful for you as you think about planning your own brand in this time of uncertainty. And I'm really grateful to have spent this time with you. Thank you. I'll stop my sharing, and then we'll do Q&A.
Thanks, Reggie. That was really insightful and very relevant. Hopefully people will have a minute to kind of formulate some additional questions, but there was one from Sam that he posted earlier for you, Reggie. His question is, what would you say is the effectiveness % of social media marketing and advertisement of a brand?
So repeat the question one more time.
Sure. What would you say is the effectiveness % of social media marketing and advertisement of a brand?
So it's difficult to give a percentage to it. I think, like anything, consistency is really important. So if you post one time and expect people to just stream to your website, even if you think it's a great post and it has some good content, people are looking for consistency. And so I think that you can't really gauge it based on a one-off or even a two-off. If you have that system in place, I think it can be very effective for you. It is one of the tools that people should take advantage of, particularly now, because people are spending more times on their computers, on their devices, and so they're looking for different types of content, and you have an opportunity to serve them by providing things that are meaningful and relevant. So I don't think that it's like everything else. It's not the one answer, and there has to be a strategy and plan in place for how you use it. But it can be effective if done consistently, and you provide that content that is really valuable for people. So one thing that I didn't share is making it so that it's easy to share it, whatever content you do create. So social media is not really the place for long form, either videos or blogs and things like that. You can use that to let people know about that, but in that space, you really want to have content that's snackable, which is a term that is used. So it's something quick, short, but adds value, and that if I like it, I find it really valuable, I can quickly share it with those in my network. So that would be one tip as far as if you do go down the road of creating social content.
Great, thank you, Reggie. Monica had a question. If it was taboo to use the same information on all of your social media platforms, specifically graphics, or is it important to have different things on each platform? Good question.
Yeah, great question. So I think that I would tailor the messaging and how you deliver it, because the audiences are a little bit different. I think the graphics are fine. If I see something that you post on Instagram and then on LinkedIn, I don't think any differently of you. I think if the messaging can't be the same just because it's a different audience there, and I think the engagement that you want to create is different, and so I would spend more time on the messaging as opposed to the visuals. And because the reality is you can't create, if you're on 3 different channels, it's hard to create 3 different graphics uh, as well as messaging. I would spend more time focusing on the messaging and the calls to action on the different platforms as opposed to the graphics.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
We have time for a few more questions. I just want to point out a message that Courtney posted, that she's been working with Hootsuite and Canva. So those are tools that anybody interested in kind of coming up, using a platform for social media, those might be worth looking into. Dawn has a comment or a question. If you had any thoughts, she recently heard that mail postcards are making a comeback. Do you have any thoughts on that? I've noticed more of those myself.
Yes. So Marie will tell you that direct mail never went anywhere. And I think that, yeah, in this age where there is, 4 to 7,000 media messages that we are hit with every day, getting something tangible in the mail, it's just a good reminder that you're there. It's a different, sensory experience. And I think it does help to differentiate. If we think about branding, one of the purposes for it being differentiation, it does help to differentiate you from competitors. So if I get something very nice, hand delivered, or just put in my mailbox, it's a way to make you stand out from others. So I do think that there's value in it, and that as people discover that or figure that out, you will start to see more of that. So
Very good. Well,
I
thank
have a
you.
question.
yes, go ahead.
If you were to, on effectiveness of social media, if you were to put percentage on each for, marketing and advertisement, like say Twitter, LinkedIn, and all that, can you just kind of put percentage wise? I know it's kind of a hard question, but give it a shot.
Sure. Well, I think we addressed it earlier, but it's hard to say, because I mean, I don't know your business. That's probably a conversation that we can have offline as far as the specifics of your industry. I think if you're in the B2B space, where you're trying to network with other businesses and do business with other businesses, LinkedIn is probably most effective. That's where I would recommend that you start, is building out a strategy for LinkedIn. If you are trying to reach consumers, Facebook and Instagram, which are kind of part of one ecosystem, are probably where you need to be. And Twitter, I'm not a power user, so I can't really. I can't really say too much about that. As far as I wouldn't start there. I think knowing your audience, which is kind of at the core of some of the things we talked about today, is that's going to determine where you spend your time and energy, and your dollars. So I would say it really depends on who your audience is, and what you're trying to sell them, inform them of, make them aware of. So
Reggie, thank you. That was really helpful.
sure.
So we are at 1 o'clock on the nose. So there's been a lot of great conversations and comments in the chat. So thank you for making this a very engaging webinar. And if we don't have any further questions, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. If anybody would like a copy of today's webinar, a recording copy, please again email info@tysonschamber.org. And on that note, thank you again, Reggie, and I wish everyone a great afternoon.
Thank you. And be sure to save the chat if you'd like to keep the comments and the contact information. So thanks you all. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. You as well.
Yep.